Travel Around Kazakhstan is an educational program on domestic tourism produced within the framework of Ruhani Jangiru project. Every episode, our camera crew travels along popular routes marked on a touristification map of the Republic. Almaty region. You can see a unique geography of this region just by looking at the map. Kapchigai Reservoir, Altyn Emil, Ili Alatau National Park, the largest hub on the New Silk Road, Korgos Eastern Gate, is located in the same region, as well as the Big Almaty Canal. Anyone who wants to see the pristine beauty of Shemiretia should certainly visit the Almaty region. Kazakhstan is a heir of an ancient, long nomadic civilization, and at the same time is a young independent state of the 21st century. The map of its natural landscapes looks very diverse. It includes coniferous and deciduous forests, mountain ranges with rare plant species, steppes with rich grasses, semi-deserts, and deserts with attributes familiar to this harsh natural zone. The territory of the Republic is striking in its size, 272.5 million hectares. 80% of this area includes pastures and agricultural land. However, this resource has a weak spot. The main part of this territory is located in the arid zone. This has a geographical explanation. The Republic is located in the depths of the Eurasian continent, far from the seas and oceans. Sad but true, every year the area of degraded pastures increases. Today it is 48 million hectares, but it could be more if they had not built the Big Almaty Channel. The Big Almaty Channel is Roman aqueducts in the center of Asia. And these are not just loud words. In Almaty, as in Rome, water goes by gravity through the most complicated maze characteristic of the foothills. This Kazakhstan construction of the century still stirs the minds in view of its scale. Just imagine, 168 kilometers of the man-made channel was shackled into concrete to make it easier for domestic farmers to irrigate agricultural land. Hello, my name is Aynash Sangandikova, and this is the program Travel in Kazakhstan. The Big Almaty Canal is a unique natural engineering object which, thanks to its extensive water supply network, is still considered the core of the irrigation system of agricultural land in the Almaty region. BAC was the last economic mega-project of the Soviet government in Kazakhstan. The Big Almaty Channel, or BAC, is named after Din Muhammad Akhmedovich Kunayev. At the moment of construction, he served as the first secretary of the Communist Party of Kazakhstan. It was Kunayev who was able to find arguments and convince the leadership of the Soviet Union to invest in the project unprecedented funds at that time, 275 million rubles. Interestingly enough, initially, the amount requested for the contribution was almost twice as modest, 148 million rubles. But in the process of preparation, the project was joined by additional infrastructure, roads and bridges that required the use of concrete channels, sewage treatment, and irrigation facilities, which made it easier for villagers to access the water. The reason for the need for such a channel was as follows. The fertile land of Zailysky Alatau did not use even a small part of its agricultural potential. In addition, the peak of melting glaciers, and hence the fullness of the river did not coincide with the plant growth cycle. Therefore, when there was a lot of water, it turned out to be unclaimed. And it created a number of social problems. In the absence of new arable land, unemployment began to rise in the countryside. People had no place to work, and the land, already pretty exhausted, was unable to produce the previous harvest. There was a stalemate. The country needed food, and the villagers left to the cities. Almaty played a significant role in the growth of water consumption. It was developing at an incredible pace. New neighborhoods, industrial enterprises were built. The population of the city grew, and with it grew the consumption of water.
Алма-Ата лежит у подножий горного хребта, на высоте 800 метров над уровнем моря. Это на крайнем юго-востоке страны, на пути из Средней Азии в Сибирь.
The population of Almaty, indeed, grew at an incredible pace. If in 1970 it was 665,000, then after 9 years, almost 900,000 people. In 1982, Almaty became a million-plus city. Today, almost 2 million people live in this southern capital. Accordingly, water consumption for urban needs has doubled. It is necessary to take into account the fact that almost half of the annual flow of a country's river is formed outside its borders. The large Almaty Canal, fully supplied from domestic sources, responded to the task of the country's food independence. This step was also taken into account in the decisions of the political leadership of that time. The construction of BAC began in the late 70s and ended in the early 80s. It was built in 3.5 years. The expenditures on the construction of the canal and other hydraulic structures have paid off exactly in due time for the calculations, in 10 years. During these years, life around the LHC was in full swing. Hundreds of thousands of people got jobs in the countryside, thanks to which migration flows were adjusted. Eyewitnesses say that in place where there was only wind-chasing dry dust, gardens and vineyards bloomed. Vegetable plantations, melon fields, and wheat and corn fields grew. The place where the BAC begins is the Bartogay Reservoir. Further, through aqueducts, water crosses the Issyk, Talgar, Bolshaya, and Malaya-Almatinka rivers. In general, the channel crosses 3 districts of the Almaty region: Enbekshi-Kazaksky, Talgarsky, and Karasayski, and of course, it enters the city of Almaty. The Bartogay Reservoir, bounded by a huge dam, allows you to regulate up to 870 million cubic meters of water. This represents 90% of the total water flow of the Chilig River. With that, the volume of Bartolgay itself is approximately 320 million cubic meters. Water is discharged from under the dam of the Chilig River from June to September for irrigated agriculture. At this time, the capacity of the spillway reaches 100 cubic meters per second, due to which the height of the fountain reaches more than 100 meters. Flows of water under enormous pressure breaks out into the open and, breaking up into tiny particles of spray, form a cloud of rainbow-colored dust sparkling in the sun. Most of its way to Almaty, almost 20 kilometers, is hidden in the collector, but there are several sections where it comes to the surface, and some of them are beach and park areas for residents to relax. One of them is in close proximity to the Bauma Grove. The Great Almaty Channel also had hard times. This is the period of the collapse of the USSR, which was accompanied by a serious economic crisis. Many hydraulic structures, due to lack of funds, began to collapse, and farms simply could not pay for water. The young state, despite the problems, took an active part in the restoration of the back. Several sections of the tank in Almaty were not filled with water. Only about 3 years ago, having carried out reconstruction in these places, the water was turned on again. Recreation areas were thoroughly reconstructed. Water treatment systems were installed. Footpaths were laid and benches were installed. The urban planning paradigm has recently undergone dramatic changes. Cities around the world are becoming not only smart, modern, and beautiful, but also comfortable. And this means that many objects that were perceived differently several years ago acquired a second wind. For example, premises in many industrial cities, the remainder of the enterprises that are closed or relocated abroad are transformed into cultural and recreational sites. Back is not an exception. Today, we would say that this is a breakthrough project, and it had a multiplier effect. And all this is true. In the shortest possible time, thanks to the back, it was possible to raise the grain yield by 2 times on nearby lands, and vegetables and fruits up to 3 times. Villagers felt the effect immediately after the launch of the Big Almaty Channel into operation. The water supply to the farms increased by 40%. The channel has just breathed life into the state farms that have faded under the scorching sun. Thousands of hectares of new irrigated land just transformed this region. For example, take the Ili district of Almaty region. This region is considered the most favorable for the cultivation of melons. But thanks to BAC, local farmers who previously were limited to watermelons and melons decided to sow in large quantities other crops. This list includes rape, flax, oats, potatoes, and sugar beet. modernization of the irrigation system, which is carried out in this area from year to year, makes it possible to increase the efficiency of using the sown areas, as well as to improve the quality of the grown vegetables. By the way, we give one more fact. Before the canal was built, the natural agricultural fertile oases in the foothills of the Trans-Ili Alatao were limited to a rather small area, and in fact did not charge during the 30 years preceding the construction of the channel. After commissioning the back, they increased significantly. In the shortest possible time, about 40 state farms were organized on the lands that were in the immediate vicinity of the lambing of the back. Now, such an approach would be called the creation of a food belt in the immediate vicinity of the urban agglomeration. Is BAC able to become a tourist attraction of Almaty? Of course, it has a great future. Soon, the canal will be included in the Republic's tourist information map. This means that soon the infrastructure will be updated here to make the rest places for residents and guests of the metropolis as comfortable as possible. From this point of view, the channel has a lot of potential, and it can become another domestic object, which shows the possibilities of mobilizing people to the challenges of a regional scale. The idea to make recreational areas for swimming seems sound. Unfortunately, there are only few reservoirs situated for this within Almaty. In summer, in hot weather in Almaty, you can swim only on the man-made Lake Sairan, which is located in the western part of the city. Another trend of modern cities is to be friendly to pedestrian, and not to the technology that is only in his service. In Almaty, as part of this approach, pedestrian areas and bicycle lanes are being built. This is a motivation for residents to use public transport more often. The BAC is already becoming part of this interesting, friendly concept. Today, BAC continues to evolve. Moreover, a program of phase reconstruction of some sections and structures of the canal has been developed. Irrigation networks are being modernized, which will allow increasing the area of fruit-bearing lands by thousands of hectares. Given the increasing demand for fresh vegetables and fruits in the largest metropolis of the country, in Almaty, it looks quite reasonable. After almost 40 years from the moment the canal was commissioned, it remains the most important waterway of the Almaty region. It continues to feed these fertile soils, as in the past century. The water, which carries the BAC, continues to give life from year to year. Today, the BAC looks like a kind of connection between the times, from the past and the heroic, to a pragmatic and no less heroic future. With the difference that, just like dozens of years ago, the channel, like the people who serve it, does a simple but extremely important job. BAC became not just a hydraulic structure, but also a cult object, a center of attraction for seemingly completely different directions and currents. There are running trails and bike tours. One of them has a length of 90 kilometers and is designed for one day. At all times, life was concentrated near the water. Thanks to such facilities as the Grand Almaty Canal, residents of several regions literally found a source of life. Therefore, BAC is not just a certain multifunctional object. It is a mega equipment that carries millions of cubic meters of life-giving moisture. In honor of the Big Almaty Canal on Suinbai Avenue at the intersection with Ruskulov Avenue, a special monument has been erected. It comes to the surface here, forming a recreational zone. Behind it, there are millions of cubic meters of soil and concrete advanced technical solutions, and the work of tens of thousands of Kazakhstan citizens, who made it possible to create a unique hydraulic structure and ensure uninterrupted water supply to citizens for many years. My name is Aynash Sagandikova, and this was the program Travel Around Kazakhstan.